This is a TalkStation original podcast.
We have Payton McNabb joining us this afternoon. I want to talk with her about the Supreme Court case that was argued earlier this week. She was in attendance. I want to hear about that. As a matter of fact, Payton, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us. And by the way, belatedly, Happy New Year to you as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you too. And thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You know, well, you're from Western North Carolina. Of course, we're here over on the coast. And of course, we suffer from the same problem. We walk on sand dunes, so one leg is shorter than the other, just like they do in the mountains. But so, Payton, let's talk about your experience, why you're involved in this lawsuit with the topic of transgender sports. A little background on you for our audience, if you will.
Yeah, so I'm in Western North Carolina. 3 years ago, I was a senior in high school, and I got permanently injured by a girls high school volleyball team. It was really crazy that happened. I couldn't believe, especially, North Carolina, I didn't think would be a place where that would happen, but especially rural North Carolina where I am, and I've never seen anything like this before, so it's really easy to be like, oh, we would never let that happen in our area or whatever, right. And then it did happen, and it happened to me, and it permanently changed my life, and I suffered from a concussion, a neck injury, a brain bleed, partial paralysis, wow. The list goes on, and it was all just completely avoidable, which is what makes it so frustrating, and it sucks, but I think a lot of good has come out of it, and I try to use that to hopefully help this never happen to any other girl ever again.
The response from first your coach, and then the response from your fellow players there on the girls volleyball team. What did your coach say when he or she? Well, I'm not sure, but he or she discovered that you would be playing against, or the team would be playing with another team that had a transgender student on its roster?
Well, definitely no one was happy about it. My team, as well as my coaches, but I had been playing against him for 4 years at this point, and the first half of high school, it wasn't really, I guess noticeable. He didn't hit puberty until about junior year when guys usually tend to do so, and then COVID also happened, which kind of made everything blurry, but once it was plainly obvious that there was a dude on the other side of the net. It was really intimidating for our younger team that we had that year, and I was trying to be as motivating and as uplifting as I possibly could, being one of the only two seniors and team captains, but it's hard to be able to do that when I'm the one that got knocked out and I had to continue to finish the game with this guy still remaining in the game. So it was definitely hard. My coach was just so frustrated that we were even having to do this, but they were in our conference and we had to play them. We couldn't not play them. So that's what sucks about it. But everyone, of course, knows what they would do now that we're looking back on it. But in the moment, it's kind of hard unless you're actually in that moment in real time. And I think that's why I think it's so important to be proactive instead of reactive, and don't wait for another girl to be permanently injured before standing up for them.
Every Tuesday, I have a group of high schoolers in our program. It's called VIEWPOINTS, and we were talking about this past Tuesday, as a matter of fact. And one of the teenagers, a junior at local high school, made comment about the fact that he also was perturbed over the fact that, and made an observation, the inverse relationship of the small number of boys who have transited, whatever it is, to girls, to female sports, and how a small number of them have such a large impact on the sport, an inverse relationship. In other words, just a few of these transgender athletes, yet they are having a significant impact on the sport. And a good example is one you experienced, where you had a player who had so much more muscle mass and purchase power as a result of their physiology to be able to drive the ball at you at such high speed. But it is interesting that these students here, at least in our community, are recognizing the lack of logic or common sense to this whole argument of allowing men who have transited to be girls to play in a women's sport. And the other aspect of it, he pointed out, was just the inequity of it. Here you have played for years competing with your peers to be successful in your sport, yet you have a transgender student who basically, he said, cheats because they've gone from being male to female and have a physiological benefit. Do those two issues, are they front and center in this debate related to transgender athletes?
Absolutely. I mean, and that just proves it itself. I mean, it's so basic knowledge that we learn at a very early age that there's a biological difference between a man and a woman. And, I mean, it proves itself, too. You don't see signs saying save men sports because there's no women taking over their sports, because
Right.
it's just not, that's just not the way it works. So I think the argument is so, I don't know, it's just so stupid to me because, we have science on our side. We have countless scenarios where this has happened and changed girls' lives in every single way.
Mm-hmm.
And they choose to ignore that and act like it's not happening. But everyone knows, whether they want to admit it or not, because that's just the way that men and women were created. They were created differently, and that's not anything against the women. That's the whole reason we have different categories in the first place. I mean, there wouldn't be accommodations put in place. A men's net wouldn't be 7 inches higher than a women's net if they didn't jump way higher than women. It's just things like that, and it just proves itself. So I think those are great points to make, and I think they have nothing to back them up, and that's exactly why they choose the feelings over facts, which is in the end, that's not going to work out.
All right, I want to take this another step further here for a moment with you. Payton McNabb with us this afternoon. We're talking with her about the Supreme Court case, and I'll get to the details on that in a moment. But first, I want to go to her experience, and she had the unfortunate experience of having to play against a male who is transiting to female. Of course, the conclusion was definitely a physiological benefit on the part of her opponent, and basically gave her a concussion for all intents and purposes. As she said just a few moments ago, Blaine Breed, this is the sort of thing that I'm going to go to the question of what parents should think about this in a moment, Payton, but I'm first going to ask, what about high schoolers? What are they saying now about what the adults in the room are saying about this? How are they conversing? What was the conversation that you had 3 years ago when all of a sudden you're playing with these individuals who are male by birth? And what did this say to you about the adults in the room? And now you are yourself an adult, but back then as a high schooler, what did that say to you about us?
It felt like, we had worked so hard to perfect the sport that we loved, and we had dedicated so much time to do that, and then for them to just totally disregard all of that and pick this guy's feelings and not wanting to have those uncomfortable conversations over our safety, it felt very, I don't know, like we didn't matter, and that was the sad part about it. So I don't know. I think that's what kind of drove people away from talking about it, is because it is uncomfortable. It is confrontational. I don't know why, and it shouldn't be. And I think that's what we've tried to push from the beginning, but people just won't let's see it that way. And that just proves again that it's just the girls that are being punished for this. So not being willing to stand up and have those uncomfortable conversations and talk about it is really just affecting the girls in the end, and that's really just the sad part.
Are you able to, have you considered playing volleyball again, or are you able to? What is the circumstance for you at this point?
So I played softball, basketball, and volleyball in high school. I wanted to play collegiate softball actually, but none of that was able to happen after my injury because that happened at the beginning of the year in my volleyball season, which was really unfortunate because that's what I wanted to do originally, but I'd never played volleyball again. That was the last time I ever played. Wow. And that was really sad for me, but I had much bigger goals, and it was just the fact that all that was taken away from me because of someone that wasn't even supposed to be there.
I read a story here from the Center Square about you, and it notes here, and I'll read this very quickly, that you were excited to be there. You were at the protest outside the Supreme Court chambers, I gather. What was taking place that day?
Yeah, there was a bunch of female athletes and just advocates that have been standing up for this issue for years now, and everyone gathered out to have just a rally behind the women and the girls who are ultimately it's being decided now if women's sports are even legal, basically, if states can even.
I know.
It's so insane, and everyone loves sports so much, and it's defined who they are and brought them so much joy and things to their life. So to see if that could be easily just taken away at the high court is just so insane that it even had to get to that point. But there were so many great people outside just cheering them on, and there was a lot of wonderful speakers like Riley Gaines and Brooke Slusser and Jen Say, and just amazing people who have really been front runners in this issue, and just everyone being able to gather together at such a monumental day, it just meant a lot.
I'm reading this story again from the Center Square. I'm going to read something that really disturbed me, and I'm quoting this from the Center Square. Riley Gaines, her 3-month-old daughter alongside in a bulletproof vest, led the list of speakers McNabb praised. Slusser, XXXY founder Jennifer Say, TV personality Sage Steele, Education Secretary Linda McMahon, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, Riley Gaines, her 3-month-old daughter alongside in a bulletproof vest. Really? Was there a sense that there was some threat to you, those of you that were standing outside the Supreme Court? And that was really a disturbing phrase when I read that in the story.
Yeah, that was really hard to hear, too, because, she's been, the front person in this fight, and she's ultimately been fighting for her daughter. So, of course, she had to bring her there that day, and we were all peacefully just rallying together in support of women and girls. But there was, of course, the opposition there as well, who were just trying to disturb everything and make it a lot more than it was. And it's scary that you can't even stand up for common sense and biology and women without having to wrap your baby in a bulletproof vest for just saying that men can't be girls. And that's the crazy part about it. She should never have to do that, but that's just the insane mob that we're up against here, and that just shows how really deranged they are in general.
What is the overall future for women's sports, but I'm going to broaden this into amateur sports in general? I find this a little unnerving in the sense that I think that amateur sports, and that unfortunately women are the first, if you will, the first targets of amateur sports. Amateur sports are being challenged and quite frankly threatened. Am I correct in that? And what's the future for sports for women? That's my question.
I'd say you absolutely are correct in that, and that's the scary part about it. I mean, women have fought so hard to even have these opportunities to play and to be good in their sport and be successful, and now we're going completely backwards and regressing all that hard work. And it seems like even top athletes like Megan Rapinoe are pulling up the ladder after she's already retired, rich, and successful, and other women and girls don't get that luxury, which is the sad part about it. And, what the Supreme Court is doing here, they're not even being asked to create something new. They're just simply being asked to restore what was promised all along, and that's that women deserve the protections and equal opportunity and a system that they can trust. And we won't even know until June or July what the outcome is here. This should be a clear 9-0 decision, and it's not even like they're voting on if states have to protect their girls. They're just voting on if they can. And there's already been 27 states to pass some sort of legislation to protect women and girls in their sports. And this vote right here is going to determine on if they can even do that, if it's even legal to protect their girls. And that is so terrifying, especially for the next generation who deserves the same equal opportunities and safety that we once had.
It's illogical. I think it's sad that our conversation has gotten this way. We're talking with, again, Payton McNabb, a North Carolinian. You're from Western North Carolina, where she played volleyball in high school. She was a three-sport letter athlete in Western North Carolina, and now, of course, working on behalf of women's sports in general, and I commend you on this one, Payton, and thank you very much for doing this. The thing that's amazing is that it's deflating, it's damaging, not only women's sports, but I think eventually it's going to destroy amateur sports, which high school ostensibly is amateur sports, although with NIL now dipping down into high school, I question that as well. Let's sort of wrap it up with you here. What would you say to a parent who has a young lady who is very active, loves playing, loves running, swimming, volleyball, soccer, field hockey? What would you say to that parent right now?
I would say that you do not owe silence to anyone. Your little girl's opportunities and safety mean so much more, and being willing to stand up for that is fighting for her, and is going to be much greater than anything they could do to you, really. I mean, she will never get this time back, and being able to stand up for her when it really counts and when it is hard. And of course, it's not easy. No one that stood up has had an easy time. You're going to get criticism and all kinds of stuff thrown at you, but in the end, you know that you're on the right side of history, and you're standing up for what is right and what is true, and you're standing up for your girls. So I think it's just incredibly important to have that courage, and courage begets courage always, and you'll be able to, your daughter will look back and be very thankful that you did.
You said something just a moment ago that really penetrates, and you said they'll never get this chance again. They'll never get this time again. And I think that's very true. And I commend you on making that observation, and also challenging all the parents. And I would say, writ large, the community. We all have a role to play in this. And I really appreciate your work in this. Payton McNabb being with us this afternoon here on the Talk Station. Payton, I hope, as this case proceeds, I will be probably calling you in the future, because I'd be interested in your observations of how this turns out. As far as it coming out to be 9-0, well, with Justice Kenjenji Brown not able to determine male or female, I don't think it's going to be 9-0. It may be 8-1, but
no.
Little humor here.
No, I don't think so either, unfortunately. This should be the most basic and easiest clean sweep of all time, but unfortunately we're at a point where that's not the case.
Isn't that amazing? Payton McNabb with us this afternoon. Payton, thank you for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.